Chapter 81. There is this matter as well. Qiye looked at Qiye and said in a deep voice. At this moment, the other elders and protectors couldn't help but look at each other. Qiye, an ordinary disciple, wanting to murder Hallmaster Zhou, this matter was truly somewhat unbelievable. Qiye smiled and slowly said. Elder, I don't know what plotting harm is. If it were plotting harm, could Hallmaster Zhou still be alive right now? I could even kill Protector Hu. If I truly wanted to harm him, killing him afterward wouldn't be a big deal. I spared his life. All the disciples of Stone Cleansing Valley saw it with their own eyes. I merely taught Hallmaster Zhou a small lesson. I never expected Hallmaster Zhou to be a good-for-nothing, unable to defeat even me, a nurtured physique realm disciple. Hallmaster Zhou's skill is lacking. I can't be blamed for that, can I? Nonsense. You are clearly a spy sent by another sect. Hiding your cultivation. Wanting to plot rebellion. Hallmaster Zhou discovered you, and that's why you killed people to silence them. Chao Xiong said in a deep voice. Elder Chao, you are the one engaging in malicious fabrication. Qiye smiled and said. Ask the disciples of Stone Cleansing Valley why I taught Hallmaster Zhou a lesson. It seems to me that Hallmaster Zhou was probably instigated by someone to frame me. I, as the senior instructor of Stone Cleansing Valley, have been extremely cautious, worrying, and giving my all. I've poured countless efforts into instructing the Tao. Yet, Hallmaster Zhou insisted that what I taught was unorthodox and heretical, saying that I was bringing an evil and demonic path into the Cleansing Incense ancient sect. Insulting my hard work like that. As long as I have a shred of conscience, how could I tolerate it? You were originally bringing an unorthodox and heretical path to the Cleansing Incense ancient sect. I was afraid that the disciples would fall into the demonic path and be corrupted by you, so I acted to stop them. Hallmaster Zhou insisted. Qiye chuckled and said, whether it's a demonic path or not, everyone knows in their hearts. One person can lie, but the 300 disciples of Stone Cleansing Valley surely can't lie. Whether I taught a demonic path or not, esteemed elders and protectors, please feel free to ask the disciples. Hearing Qiye's words, Qiye looked at the disciples of Stone Cleansing Valley present. He randomly called upon a disciple and asked, what cultivation method did the senior brother teach you? Replying to the elder, the senior brother did not teach me a new cultivation method. The senior brother merely demonstrated the shortcomings in the Jade Snail Heart method and the Flying Moth Sword technique that I cultivated when I was initiated. The disciple quickly replied. Tell me the heart method the senior brother spoke of. Grand Elder Qiye said in a deep voice. The disciple dared not be negligent and quickly recounted the heart method and the corrections to the moves Qiye had spoken of to the Grand Elder. Hearing the disciple's words, Grand Elder Qiye couldn't help but be moved. In fact, not only Grand Elder Qiye was moved, but the other elders and protectors present were also deeply shaken. How is this merely a foundational heart method? This is completely a great Tao outline. Elder Qian said with disbelief. Elder Wu was also shocked and said, I've cultivated for over 1,000 years and read the Jade Snail Heart method no less than 100 times, but I never thought it could be comprehended this way, interpreted like this. This is probably the ultimate profound truth of the Jade Snail Heart method. This is likely the true essence of that heart method. Elder Sun also supported Qiye, saying, if this is considered a demonic path, then what we cultivate is truly the demonic path. In this world, no one could interpret a foundational heart method to such a profound and grand level of the great Tao. It wasn't the first time Elder Sun witnessed Qiye's marvel. Hearing such an interpretation for the first time today, he was still incredibly shaken. He supported Qiye more than any other elder. Many more elders and Protectors were too stunned to speak. Qiye's interpretation of the foundational heart method was immensely profound, far from ordinary. Qiye's guidance on the flaws in the moves could be said to have hit the nail on the head. They had cultivated for hundreds, even over 1,000 years, yet they had not interpreted it to this extent. Today they finally realized that the most basic foundational heart method could be interpreted to such a level. The insights they had comprehended before were merely the surface of the foundational technique. If I had been able to comprehend the jade snail heart method to this degree back then, cultivating only this one heart method would have been enough for a lifetime. A protector couldn't help but say emotionally. It took Qiye a long time to recover. Everyone knew that Qiye was a mortal physique, mortal fate and mortal wheel. Yet, he interpreted such profound essence. To say this out loud, no one would believe it. Even a heaven-defying genius couldn't interpret it to this extent. Such an interpretation was already unparalleled. Is this truly your comprehension? Qiye still found it hard to believe. Looking at Qiye and saying with great emotion. Qiye smiled and said, replying to the elder, this is merely a small insight of mine, just a small bit of comprehension, nothing too profound. Qiye's words instantly choked Grand Elder Qiye, leaving him speechless. This was merely a small insight, just a small bit of comprehension. Comprehending the foundational heart method. To this degree, even the words genius weren't enough to describe him. This could only be described as a monster. Senior brother, it seems we've missed a genius. Qiye's comprehension is extremely astonishing. A while ago, I had some issues with my cultivation, and it was Qiye who gave me valuable advice. At this moment, elder son also spoke. At this juncture he supported Qiye and recounted his own experience. Hearing elder son's narration, the protectors and elders present couldn't help but be moved. This matter was truly unbelievable. There was once a rumor that physique, longevity wheel and fate palace are not the only standards to measure a person. Before I always disbelieved it, thinking it was utter nonsense. Today it seems the ancients did not deceive me. Elder Qian couldn't help but say emotionally. At this moment, Elder Wu, one of the 6 grand elders, looked at Hallmaster Zhou and said, Hallmaster Zhou, if this is a demonic path, then there is no righteous Tao technique in the world. Even if you are muddled, you wouldn't be this muddled. The sudden reversal of the situation left Hallmaster Zhou somewhat caught off guard. This is probably not muddled but a conspiracy. For Hallmaster Zhou, it probably doesn't matter what I taught. What matters is getting rid of me. Qiye said pensively at this moment. Qiye's eyes intensified. His aura immediately suppressed Hallmaster Zhou, and he said in a deep voice, Hallmaster Zhou, what exactly is going on? Qiye's comprehension of the foundational heart method alone was an incredibly valuable asset to the declining cleansing incense ancient sect. At this moment, Qiye was absolutely determined to protect Qiye. Regardless of the situation, he knew that Qiye's importance was not just because of the marriage alliance. Hallmaster Zhou was speechless for a moment and couldn't help but look at Chao Xiong. Chao Xiong saw the unfavorable situation and immediately said in a deep voice, Hallmaster Zhou was simply too foolish, unable to recognize a profound technique. He should be punished. However, this traitor is greatly disobedient, murdering 3 Hallmasters, Protector Hu, and Jianna. This absolutely cannot be forgiven. For Chao Xiong, today was a total loss. Not only did he fail to execute Qiye, but his 2 disciples were also killed, especially He Yingjian. He Yingjian was the one set to inherit his mantle. His most valued disciple was killed. Like this, his heart was bleeding. Qiye said leisurely, if I truly plotted rebellion, then I deserve 10,000 deaths. Unfortunately, I was framed. Hall Master Zhou initially disregarded right and wrong, falsely accusing me of bringing a demonic path into the cleansing incense ancient sect. Then, Protector who suddenly brought a large team of law enforcement disciples, intending to execute me on the spot, not even giving me a chance to explain. This is definitely a conspiracy. Isn't this too much of a coincidence? Isn't this trying to push me to my death? Why did Elder Chao and Old Man Dong arrive together, even earlier than the other elders? And they, too, disregarded right and wrong, moving to kill me. Does this not indicate a desire to kill me, to silence me? Elder Chao, are you perhaps colluding with the Sacred Heaven Church? Betraying the sect and colluding with outsiders is a capital crime, leaving a bad name for 10,000 generations. Qiye spoke slowly, leaving the disciples of Stone Cleansing Valley utterly dumbfounded. The senior brother's easy reversal of the situation, such scheming, was truly terrifying. This was wisdom as vast as the sea. Li Xuangan, observing the entire process, was even more moved in her heart. Qiye's massacre of the 3 hallmasters and Protector who was utterly unrestrained, done effortlessly. Now he spoke slowly, easily reversing the situation. This was truly to cover the sky with one hand and command the rain with the other. Moreover, he remained calm and at ease from beginning to end. Such a matter, to him, was truly just like having breakfast. It left Li Xuangan terrified. At this moment, Li Xuangan realized that Qiye was no longer merely mysterious. Today she truly witnessed Qiye's methods of calculating others. This was truly killing without shedding blood. Even Du Bunyan, who had been standing aside and silent, who had lived for countless years back then, he schemed against the entire world. That was a truly grand masterpiece. Rebellious creature on the verge of death, yet still making noise. Chao Xiong was shaking with anger. This plot was his own meticulously calculated plan, yet now he was countered by Qiye. How could this not leave him helpless and flustered? Junior brother Chao, this matter is full of suspicious points. To call Qiye a traitor now is too rash. At this moment, Grand Elder Qiye said coldly. The thing he least wanted to see was Chao Xiong colluding with Dong Shenglong, yet now the answer was very clear. Let alone Grand Elder Qiye, even the other elders and protectors were leaning towards Qiye at this moment. It was only because they lacked concrete evidence that they dared not say much. Senior brother, you won't truly believe this rebellious creature, will you? Chao Xiong was furious to the point of spitting blood. His plan was likely in vain, and his 2 disciples died unjustly. This matter, at least, is full of suspicious points. Qiye said coldly. Without evidence, he couldn't convict Chao Xiong and Dong Shenglong of collusion, but this had already made him extremely dissatisfied. Good. Protector Hu and the others died in vain. Chao Xiong said fiercely. At this point, he played another trump card, saying in a deep voice. Even if Hallmaster Zhou was muddled, the fact that this rebellious creature is plotting rebellion is ironclad. This rebellious creature secretly learned the Kunpeng 6 transformations. Secretly learning the Kunpeng 6 transformations. At this moment, the protectors and elders present couldn't help but be moved. Grand Elder Qiye's expression also tightened. He instantly stared at Qiye, saying in a deep voice, Kunpeng 6 transformations is the core emperor technique of the cleansing incense ancient sect. And it is the only complete and intact emperor technique currently passed down in the cleansing incense ancient sect. This matter is of great importance and cannot be treated lightly. Is this true? Qiye stared at Qiye and said in a deep voice. When it came to the Kunpeng 6 transformations, Qiye couldn't help but be cautious. What is the Kunpeng 6 transformations? Qiye said with utter innocence. Elder, don't be fooled by him. At this moment, Hall Master Zhou saw a chance to turn the tables and said loudly. I personally saw him use the heavenly transformation to escape from senior nephew. He's 36 heavenly gang sword formation. This is absolutely true. Are the elders referring to this? At this moment, a Kunpeng leaped from Li Qiye's Fate Palace. The fist-sized Kunpeng was incredibly lifelike. As the Kunpeng leaped, runes shifted. Following the Kunpeng's gentle sway, the Milky Way revolved, as if transporting people to a different star field. Each transformation of the Kunpeng was immensely profound. Even the elders couldn't fully comprehend it. Kunpeng 6 transformations. Seeing this scene, the various elders and protectors present couldn't help but change their expressions drastically. The Kunpeng 6 transformations in the entire cleansing incense ancient sect was only completely cultivated by Grand Elder Gu Qiesho. Back then, when Gu Qiesho cultivated this technique, it was personally approved by the former sect master and agreed upon by all the Grand Elders. Apart from Grand Elder Gu Qiesho, who cultivated the complete Kunpeng 6 transformations, only Elder Zhou, one of the 6 Grand Elders, had cultivated the first 3 transformations of the Kunpeng 6 transformations. Back then, Elder Zhou made a great contribution to the cleansing incense ancient sect at the risk of his life. Therefore, with the unanimous agreement of the elders and protectors, he was allowed to cultivate the first 3 transformations of the Kunpeng 6 transformations. For the current cleansing incense ancient sect, the Kunpeng 6 transformations was the core secret of the entire cleansing incense ancient sect. Furthermore, even an elder, without the agreement of all the elders and protectors, could not access the manual. The Kunpeng 6 transformations was preserved in the safest and most secretive location of the cleansing incense ancient sect. The location of its preservation was unknown to anyone other than the 6 Grand Elders. Seeing this technique, Grand Elder Gu Qiesho's expression was shaken. He cultivated the complete Kunpeng 6 transformations and understood it better than anyone else. Seeing the Kunpeng floating and swaying above Li Qiye's head, his heart was shaken beyond measure, because the Kunpeng 6 transformations Li Qiye cultivated was even more profound than his. This meant that on this cultivation method, Li Qiye had progressed even further than him. This was truly unbelievable. One must know that the Kunpeng 6 transformations was one of the most powerful emperor techniques of the cleansing incense ancient sect, vast and profound. He had immersed himself in this technique for hundreds of years, only managing to connect the 6 transformations. He dared not claim to grasp the true mystery of this technique. Yet, a newly inducted disciple mastered the profound essence. How did you cultivate the Kunpeng 6 transformations? Gu Qiesho stared at Li Qiye. His gaze instantly became terrifying, even revealing killing intent. Previously, Gu Qiesho was determined to protect Li Qiye no matter what. But now, Li Qiye actually cultivated the Kunpeng 6 transformations. If this was a theft, it was the greatest taboo of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Without waiting for the other elders and protectors to decide, he would eliminate Li Qiye himself. To Gu Qiesho, if it were the theft of other cultivation methods, there might be room for discussion. But the Kunpeng 6 transformations was non-negotiable. It was too important to the cleansing incense ancient sect. Theft of the core emperor technique, execute him without mercy. Chao Xiong saw the situation reverse and was secretly delighted. He said to Elder Gu, Senior brother, this person cannot be kept. Keeping him for one more moment is one more danger for our cleansing incense ancient sect. Qiye, how did you cultivate this technique? Gu Qiesho ignored Chao Xiong, staring intently at Li Qiye, and said in a deep voice. Li Qiye smiled and said leisurely. The elder said this technique is the Kunpeng 6 transformations. Still pretending to be ignorant. Senior brother, capture him first, then torture him severely. Chao Xiong immediately incited trouble. Silence! Gu Qieshuo suddenly shouted at Chao Xiong. At this moment, Gu Qieshuo's entire body was like a fierce lion, his aura intimidating, his divine might blazing. As the grand senior brother, he ultimately possessed an inviolable authority. Gu Qieshuo's sudden rage made Chao Xiong's expression change. Even the other elders and protectors present felt the Grand Elder's inviolable authority. Qiye, tell me, how did you cultivate the Kun? Peng 6 transformations. At this moment, Gu Qieshuo shouted in a deep voice. This was the first time Gu Qieshuo was truly angry. He was extremely solemn. Well, it has to start with the Kun. Peng Minor thought 6th sense. Qiye slowly said, completely unafraid of Gu Qieshuo's divine might. He paused, then said. That day the elder allowed me to cultivate the Kun. Peng Minor thought. 6th sense. After I selected the manual, I seriously comprehended it. Naturally, while comprehending the technique wholeheartedly, I unknowingly fell asleep. During this time, I had a strange dream. I dreamed of an old grandfather. The old grandfather said that I had a destiny with him, so he passed on a cultivation method similar to the Kun. Peng Minor thought 6th sense. To me. Afterward, this old grandfather passed on that cultivation method to me. I didn't know what cultivation method it was. Now that the elder mentioned it, I know its name. Qiye spoke. Continuously, making it sound exactly like the truth, which left the protectors and elders present utterly baffled. Nonsense. Where in the world is there such an absurd thing? Receiving the Tao in a dream, this can only deceive a 3-year-old child. Chao Xiong shouted. But Gu Qieshuo ignored Chao Xiong, stared intently at Qiye, and said in a deep voice. What did this old grandfather look like? Well, in the dream, I can't quite remember clearly. Qiye tilted his head, pretending to ponder for a long time, and finally described the appearance of Immortal Emperor Min Ren. In the current era, no one was clearer than him about what Immortal Emperor Min Ren looked like. His scattered words were enough to outline the appearance of Immortal Emperor Min Ren. Upon hearing Qiye's description, the hearts of the Grand Elder and the others were shaken. Although there were statues of Immortal Emperor Min Ren in the Cleansing Incense ancient sect, they were ultimately made by others and lacked his true essence. However, the Cleansing Incense ancient sect secretly stored a portrait of Immortal Emperor Min Ren, which Immortal Emperor Min Ren drew himself. This portrait was not just a simple painting. It carried Immortal Emperor Min Ren's powerful emperor's presence and immortal aura. It was the sect's protective treasure. If this portrait were deployed, it could protect the Cleansing Incense ancient sect and repel strong enemies. This portrait could not be used easily. If used too many times, its power would greatly diminish and the emperor's presence and immortal aura would vanish. Therefore, the Cleansing Incense ancient sect would not easily use it unless it was a matter of sect annihilation. Even the 6 Grand Elders had seen this portrait before. The founding ancestors' emperors' might left an indelible impression on them. Now, Qiye's scattered words vividly described the founding ancestors' emperors' might and immortal aura. Unless he had seen this portrait, it would be impossible to describe the founding ancestors' emperors' might and immortal aura so vividly. Hearing Qiye's vivid description of Immortal Emperor Min Ren's emperor's might and immortal aura, the hearts of Gu Qieshuo and the others were shaken. Could it be that the founding ancestor truly appeared in Qiye's dream? Other disciples withdraw. Protectors and elders remain. Without orders, no disciple is allowed to enter. Finally, the Grand Elder gave this order. After the disciples withdrew, only the elders and protectors of the Cleansing Incense ancient sect remained. All the high-ranking officials of the Cleansing Incense ancient sect were present. At this moment, the atmosphere was solemn. At this time, Grand Elder Gu Qieshuo also sealed off the area, forbidding anyone from approaching. Write down the Kun Peng 6 transformations you learned in your dream once, for me and Elder Zhou to see. Finally, Grand Elder Qiye said in a deep voice. Senior brother, you won't truly believe this kind of absurd matter, will you? At this moment, Chao Xiong said with great dissatisfaction. This rebellious creature must have secretly learned the Kunpeng 6 transformations. Qiye looked at Chao Xiong and said in a deep voice. The place where it is stored, who else knows besides the 6 of us? If one wanted to open that location, junior brother Chao should know the entire procedure. Without our agreement, could others open it? Unless a grand sage personally arrived and forcefully broke it, who could take out the manual? Whether the manual is still there, we all know in our hearts. That's right. If that location was breached, our cleansing incense ancient sect would also be in danger. Now it's perfectly intact. Senior brother Chao, do you think Qiye could have stolen the Kunpeng 6 transformations from that location? Unless junior brother Chao is implying that the grand senior brother secretly passed this technique to Qiye. Elder son also said in a deep voice. I wouldn't dare suggest that. Chao Xiong said sullenly. Even if he wanted to imply it, it was impossible. The other elders and protectors wouldn't believe such an implication either. Finally, Qiye quietly wrote out the Kunpeng 6 transformations heart method, adding many profound insights to it. Only the Grand Elder and Elder Zhou could view the copied heart method. Elder Zhou could only view the first 3 transformations. Upon review, Grand Elder Qiye and Elder Zhou were moved. Not only was this the complete Kunpeng 6 transformations heart method, but the profound essence revealed within was more vast and profound than what they had comprehended. To be able to comprehend it to this level, let alone them, even the former Grand Elders probably couldn't. To comprehend it to this degree, one would need the accumulation necessary to reach the Grand Sage realm. At this moment, the Grand Elder and Elder Zhou were shaken. Could it be true that the founding ancestor appeared in Qiye's dream? Otherwise, how could this be explained? The Grand Elder and Elder Zhou remained silent. The elders and protectors present already understood what had happened. This made the elders and protectors present look at each other. Could there truly be such a thing as receiving the Tao in a dream? Such a matter was too absurd, truly hard for them to believe. Did the old grandfather in the dream say anything else? Finally, Qiye looked at Qiye and asked. Qiye thought seriously and finally said. Oh, right. The old grandfather also said that I bear a great responsibility, and the future revitalization of the cleansing incense ancient sect rests on my shoulders. The old grandfather said that if I want to learn more profound cultivation methods, I should use other similar cultivation methods to call him, and he might appear in my dream. Preposterous. Audacious. How dare you speak of revitalizing the cleansing incense ancient sect? Chao Xiong shouted. You continue. Qiye interrupted Chao Xiong and said to Qiye in a deep voice. Qiye scratched his head and said seriously. What those similar cultivation methods are, I don't quite understand. So lately I've been very troubled, unable to summon the old grandfather. He must mean minor emperor techniques. At this moment, Elder Son quickly said. You cultivated the Kunpeng minor thought sixth sense, and he passed on the Kunpeng 6 transformations to you. If you cultivate other minor emperor techniques, perhaps he will pass on the core emperor technique to you. This is too absurd. Chao Xiong shouted coldly. Junior brother son, do you believe this kind of absurd claim? This kind of claim can only deceive a 3-year-old child. With this claim, there's no way to verify it. He can say anything he wants. It can be verified. At this moment, Elder Wu, the youngest of the 6 grand elders, said. Let Qiye cultivate another minor emperor technique, and see if he can summon the person in his dream. If he can write out another core emperor technique, That will prove this is receiving the Tao in a dream. This method is feasible. Elder Qian also agreed, saying, if it's truly like this, what Qiye said is likely the truth. This claim was truly too absurd. Not only the elders but even the protectors couldn't believe it. However, within this absurd claim, the elders and protectors of the cleansing incense ancient sect caught a glimmer of hope. The cleansing incense ancient sect was currently in decline, watched by numerous major sections. The declining cleansing incense ancient sect was like a plump sheep among a pack of wolves. Now for the elders and protectors of the cleansing incense ancient sect, they all needed a miracle to revitalize the cleansing incense ancient sect. If the founding ancestor Immortal Emperor Minren had a soul and still protected the cleansing incense ancient sect, perhaps he would truly appear in a disciple's dream. At this moment, Chao Xiong also paused and finally said in a deep voice, if he is willing to prove it, I have no objection. Are you willing? Gu Qiesho looked at Li Qiye and said in a deep voice. In fact, as the chief elder, he had witnessed countless storms. He naturally knew that this claim was truly too absurd and preposterous. However, he bore the responsibility of the cleansing incense ancient sect, and he also longed for a miracle, the founding ancestor appearing in a dream. Elder, I am innocent and have nothing to fear. No matter how the elders test me, I am not afraid. Li Qiye's words were forceful and won the favor of the other elders and protectors. Next was the matter of selecting a cultivation method. The various elders exchanged glances. Finally, Elder Qian said, in my opinion, let's choose the Violet River art. In this area, junior brother Sun has the deepest research. The emperor techniques in the cleansing incense ancient sect were tragically few. The only complete core emperor technique was the Kuanpeng 6 transformations, and this was the strongest emperor technique passed down in the cleansing incense ancient sect. Apart from the complete Kuanpeng 6 transformations, there were two other core emperor techniques, but these two core emperor techniques were severely incomplete. One of these two incomplete core emperor techniques was the Violet Sun Ten Sun's art. Despite this, the elders of the cleansing incense ancient sect dared not cultivate these two emperor techniques, as they were severely incomplete. A single mistake would lead to cultivation deviation, which would ruin a lifetime of cultivation. Therefore, the elders instead cultivated grand sage techniques. Elder Sun's foundational cultivation method was the Violet River art. This cultivation method was very important to him. Previously, he had always wanted to cultivate the incomplete Violet Sun Ten Sun's art, so he had researched and comprehended this remnant emperor technique very deeply. However, he eventually discovered that this emperor technique was too severely incomplete to be cultivated. In the end, he had to give up and instead cultivated a grand sage technique. Now that they wanted to test Li Qiye, they could only choose one of these two incomplete emperor techniques. And among them, Elder Sun had the deepest research into the Violet Sun Ten Sun's art. Therefore, after deliberation among the elders, they unanimously decided to have Li Qiye cultivate the Violet River art. Once the decision was made, Li Qiye returned to Solitary Peak. This time, the 6 Grand Elders personally presided over Solitary Peak, guarding Li Qiye. Regardless of whether it was the 6 Grand Elders or the other protectors, everyone took this matter extremely seriously. Chao Xiong was determined to kill Li Qiye. His 2 disciples died tragically at Li Qiye's hands. He couldn't sleep peacefully until this grudge was avenged. However, this matter was not something he could control now. More importantly, Chao Xiong already had other intentions at this time, so he wasn't in a hurry to avenge his disciples. The 6 Grand Elders agreed and passed the Violet River Art Manual to Li Qiye. During this process, Li Qiye was not allowed to leave Solitary Peak, and could only focus on cultivating the Violet River art. The Violet River art, a minor emperor technique. It was only a small part of the Violet Sun Ten Sun's art. This was an emperor technique created by Immortal Emperor Min Ren. Although the power of this emperor technique couldn't compare to the Kunpeng 6 transformations as a core emperor technique, it was still incomparably powerful. Qiye was clearer than anyone about the initial form of the Violet Sun Ten Sun's art. Back when this cultivation method was initially created, Qiye, as the Dark Crow, had led Immortal Emperor Min Ren into dangerous lands, witnessing the rising and setting of the Ten Suns and the evolution of the Great Tao. Only then did Immortal Emperor Min Ren create this cultivation method. Throughout the entire process, Qiye, in the form of the Dark Crow, gave Immortal Emperor Min Ren many suggestions. He had helped Immortal Emperor Min Ren perfect this cultivation method several times. Although the memory of this cultivation method was erased during his slumber, now, as he carefully studied and comprehended the Violet River art, the memory, all the profound essence of this cultivation method, resurfaced in Qiye's mind. The erased memory reappeared. Qiye recovered the memory of the Violet Sun Ten Sun's art, but he was not in a hurry to tell the elders of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect. Days passed, causing the elders of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect to worry needlessly. Day after day passed, month after month elapsed. At this point, let alone others, even the elders began to waver. The elders longed for a miracle in their hearts. Although such a matter sounded absurd, they truly longed for something like this to happen, hoping that the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect could receive the founding ancestors' protection. In my opinion, this rebellious creature is just deceiving people, Chao Xiong said coldly, starting to sow discord again. Towards Chao Xiong's instigation, Elder Sun retorted. Senior Brother Chao, aren't you too impatient? Without reaching the end to make such a rash conclusion, it seems Senior Brother Chao won't rest until Qiye is dead. Junior Brother Sun, what do you mean by that? I am committed to protecting the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect. Chao Xiong's face was cold, and he said in a deep voice. Enough, stop arguing. Waiting a little longer won't hurt. Grand Elder Gu Tiesho interrupted their argument and said coldly. Finally, 3 months passed. Qiye walked out of his small courtyard and said excitedly. It's here. It's here. It's here. Really? Upon hearing this, at this moment, the 6 Grand Elders disregarded their statuses and rushed in. Even Chao Xiong couldn't suppress his excitement. Qiye handed the written cultivation method to the Grand Elder and said, Elder, this is the cultivation method the old grandfather in my dream passed on to me. I don't know if it is the Violet Sun Ten Sun's art that the Elder mentioned. The Grand Elder couldn't help but receive the heart method excitedly. In fact, not only Grand Elder Gu Tiesho was excited, but the other elders were also excited. Chao Xiong was also excited, but his excitement had a different purpose. Finally, the 6 Grand Elders personally presided over the comparison between the cultivation method Qiye wrote and the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sects preserved remnant volume of the Violet Sun Ten Sun's art. It's true. It's true. The complete Violet Sun Ten Sun's art. After the comparison, Elder Sun was incredibly excited. He had once dreamed of cultivating this technique but had never succeeded. He never expected that he would have the opportunity to see the complete Violet Sun Ten Sun's art in his lifetime. This is not just the complete heart method, but it also interprets many profound truths. I believe that apart from the founding ancestor appearing in a dream, it would be impossible for an ordinary disciple to comprehend it to this extent. Even a heaven-defying genius, given the complete heart method, wouldn't be able to comprehend such profound truths. Finally, Elder Sun said, with extreme excitement. At this moment, the other elders were excited, exhilarated, and shaken. This matter, to them, was truly like a dream, absurd and unbelievable. Heaven has eyes. It pities our Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect. The founding ancestor has a soul, and is unwilling to see our cleansing incense ancient sect perish. He has finally manifested. An elder couldn't help but say excitedly. At this moment, apart from the claim of receiving the Tao in a dream, no other explanation was more credible. At this point, Chao Xiong's eyes flickered non-stop. Among the elders, he was the least likely to believe such an absurd claim of receiving the Tao in a dream. But what if it was true? It made Chao Xiong contemplate many things. Finally, the elders summoned Li Qiye once more. Looking at Li Qiye sitting calmly, the various elders had an indescribable feeling in their hearts. Did the founding ancestor truly choose this seemingly ordinary disciple with a mortal physique, mortal will, and mortal fate? If not, there were too many inconsistencies. At this moment, Elder Sun and the others couldn't help but think that perhaps the profound truths of the Jade Snail Heart method were also not comprehended by Li Qiye, but passed on by the founding ancestor. Whether this was the case or not was no longer important to Elder Sun and the others, because they had witnessed a miracle. Perhaps Li Qiye would become the key to the revitalization of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Finally, Grand Elder Gu Tiesho said in a deep voice. After the elders' review, we believe the claim of receiving the Tao in a dream, as you described, is true. Therefore, cultivating the Kunpeng 6 transformations is not considered theft. Furthermore, the elders have decided that you may cultivate the Violet Sun Ten Sun's art. Gu Tiesho, who had lived for over 1,000 years, also felt surreal about this matter. However, having reached this level, he had no choice but to believe it, and he hoped that all of this was true. Li Qiye said with a beaming smile. I heard the elders say that the Violet Sun Ten Sun's art in the sect is severely incomplete. Now that this disciple has recovered the complete Violet Sun Ten Sun's art, is this not a great service to the sect? Li Qiye's sudden claim for service caught the 6 elders present somewhat off guard, and they looked at each other in confusion. It can be considered a great service. Finally, Grand Elder Gu Tiesho had to admit it. For the cleansing incense ancient sect, recovering a core emperor technique was indeed a heaven-shaking great service. In that case, I can make one request. Li Qiye said with a beaming smile. The elders exchanged glances. Finally, the Grand Elder nodded and said, you are allowed to make one request. As long as the sect can fulfill it, we will certainly satisfy you. My request is very simple. I heard that Nan Huiran and Protector Mo cultivate the Violet River art. Since I have made a great service, I request that the sect permit them to cultivate the Violet Sun Ten Sun's art. Li Qiye slowly said. How audacious. Seeking personal gain with authority. The sect will absolutely not permit such a thing. Before the other elders could speak regarding Li Qiye's request, Chao Xiong immediately shouted sharply. Emperor techniques were practically the exclusive right of the elders. Even a protector could not cultivate a core emperor technique. Now, a mere third-generation disciple wanted to cultivate a core emperor technique. Of course, Chao Xiong was displeased. Li Qiye glanced at him and slowly said, Elder Chao, if you had recovered the core emperor technique, let alone Elder Chao's disciples, even Elder Chao's grand disciples cultivating this core emperor technique, I would agree. Oh, I forgot. Elder Chao has already lost his disciples, let alone grand disciples. Li Qiye's words were like a stab to Chao Xiong. Chao Xiong's expression instantly changed, his face contorted. He suddenly stood up and shouted. Little beast, you're courting death. Junior brother Chao. Grand Elder Gu Tiesho shouted. Qiye is merely a child. There's no need to take offense with him. If it were before, Chao Xiong wouldn't have cared much about Grand Elder Gu Tiesho. Now, knowing that the Grand Elder was not only a marquis, a veteran marquis, but had also cultivated the Kunpeng 6 transformations, made Chao Xiong extremely wary. He was definitely no match for Gu Qiye. Senior brother Gu, you are being too lenient with this rebellious creature. He will sooner or later become a thorn in the sect's side. Chao Xiong said with resentment. Innocent remarks are not to be taken to heart. Junior brother Chao, there's no need to dwell on it. At this moment, Gu Qiye was clearly shielding Qiye. At this time, not only Gu Qiye, but the other 4 elders were also shielding Qiye, causing hatred to simmer in Chao Xiong's heart. Regarding Qiye's request, after deliberation among the Grand Elder and the others, they agreed to Qiye's request, saying to Qiye, "You have used your service to argue this point. After the Elder Council's discussion, your request has been approved. Protector Mo has been loyal to our cleansing incense ancient sect for so long, always absolutely faithful. He can now cultivate the Violet Sun Ten Sun's art. As for Nan Huiran, he can also cultivate it but not now. We will test him for a few more years. If there are no issues, he can cultivate this cultivation method." The most overjoyed was none other than Elder Sunday Protector Mo was his disciple, and Nan Huiran was his grand disciple. Now they were qualified to cultivate the Violet Sun Ten Sun's art. How could he, as their master, not be happy? Chao Xiong was furious to the point of exploding with hatred. Now he was on the verge of becoming a solitary figure. His disciples, Protector Hu and He Ingjian, were both killed by Qiye. He wished he could slice Qiye into 10,000 pieces. However, at this crucial moment, Qiye made a great service and became a key figure for cultivation and protection in the cleansing incense ancient sect, making it difficult for him to avenge his disciples. Upon hearing the news, Protector Mo and Nan Huiran were so excited they couldn't speak. At this moment they were deeply moved. Not long ago, Qiye had said that he would absolutely let them cultivate the Violet Sun Ten Sun's art within a year. They never expected this matter to happen so quickly, making them feel like they were dreaming. At this moment, they also felt that choosing to follow Qiye that day was the most brilliant decision of their lives. At that time, if anyone had known about their decision, they would have laughed at them for being crazy, a protector following a third-generation disciple, and one with a mortal physique and mortal fate at that. Now their efforts had finally been rewarded. Qiye bestowed generous rewards upon those who followed him, and were loyal. "Senior brother, how did you manage this?" After Nan Huiran received the order, he was extremely excited and came to see Qiye with his master. It was a trivial matter. "What's so difficult about it?" Qiye smiled and said. Nan Huiran was ecstatic. "An emperor technique. A core emperor technique. Such a thing made people extremely envious," he said in disbelief. "Senior brother, how did you recover the emperor technique? Was it truly the founding ancestor appearing in a dream?" The news of the founding ancestor appearing in a dream was sealed by the high-ranking officials of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Nan Huiran only learned about it from his grandmaster, elder son. "Would there be any benefit to me if I lied to you?" Qiye said with a smile. "Senior brother's great kindness is beyond repayment. As long as senior brother gives the order, I will brave fire and water without hesitation," Nan Huiran said with extreme excitement. Qiye glanced at him and said, "Flattery again. If you weren't loyal to me, would I have rewarded you with an emperor technique?" Being reprimanded by Qiye like this, Nan Huiran didn't mind and just chuckled. As for Protector Mo, he was a man of few words, not skilled in polite conversation. He simply bowed deeply to Qiye, saying nothing else. Li Xuangan, who had been observing Qiye as his maid, was outwardly indifferent. Having reached this point, she was left with only silence after silence. Everything that had happened recently, she had observed as an outsider. What Li Qiye displayed was not astonishing talent nor a genius. Cultivator's aptitude, but heaven-defying strategies and shocking schemes. With just a few actions, he reversed the situation, instantly becoming the cleansing incense ancient sect's most crucial resource. He killed 3 hallmasters, Protector Hu, and He Ingjian, yet emerged completely unscathed, easily shattering Chao Xiong's conspiracy and resolving the crisis. This appeared to be done effortlessly, but in reality, it concealed astonishing wisdom. Such seasoned methods, such decisive and ruthless actions, operating as smoothly as flowing water. Was this a 13 or 14-year-old boy? Everything demonstrated by the young man before her seemed unbelievable. Killing He Ingjian, forcing Chao Xiong, not a single step showed any childish impulsiveness. Everything was smooth as flowing water, everything was elusive, not at all like a young man, but like a wise person who saw everything. Li Shuangyan's heart couldn't help but be moved. Before coming to the cleansing incense ancient sect, she thought her master, Will Sun Demon Emperor, valued Li Qiye because he was familiar with some secrets. Now it seemed that might not be the case. At this moment, Li Shuangyan couldn't help but recall a saying, on the path of cultivation, sometimes the most important things are not one's physique, longevity wheel, or fate palace. That saying seemed to be proven true by Li Qiye. Li Shuangyan remained silent. She had been by Li Qiye's side for some time, but the longer she stayed, the more unfathomable she found Li Qiye to be. As a genius and a heavenly proud daughter, she had always been proud of her talent and comprehension. However, seeing the mortal physique, mortal fate, and mortal wheel of Li Qiye today, even she, a genius, couldn't help but be speechless. If it were her, she feared she wouldn't have such methods, planning the overall situation with every move, entrapping people in a death trap. This wasn't comprehension, nor was it talent, but great wisdom, accumulated over ages. What was frustrating was that this kind of age-old accumulation appeared on a 13 or 14-year-old boy, leaving Li Shuangyan, the heavenly proud daughter, feeling powerless. If Li Qiye had been born like her, with an imperial physique and saint fate, how formidable would he be? He probably would have swept across the 9 heavens and 10 lands long ago. However, the matter was not yet over. Killing 3 hallmasters, 1 protector, and the cleansing incense ancient sect's most outstanding disciple, He Ingjian, such a matter would be earth-shattering in any sect. To bring closure to this matter, the 6 grand elders of the cleansing incense ancient sect specially convened a meeting. Furthermore, this meeting specifically allowed Li Qiye to attend. Undoubtedly, in the minds of the elders, Li Qiye held an extremely important position. Apart from Chao Xiong, the other elders believed that Li Qiye would be the key to the revitalization of the cleansing incense ancient sect. This matter was a misunderstanding. Finally, Grand Elder Gu Qiesho made this conclusion. In fact, when making this conclusion, the Grand Elder and the others had discussed it privately. However, their private discussion excluded Chao Xiong. Previously, the other 4 elders had been somewhat disappointed with the Grand Elder's declining morale, and their confidence had wavered. However, after this incident, the 4 elders rallied together, strongly supporting the Grand Elder. Furthermore, this incident caused the 4 elders to become suspicious of Chao Xiong's trustworthiness. In this matter, Chao Xiong had gotten too close to Dong Shenglong, which made the elders uncomfortable. The cleansing incense ancient sect and the sacred heaven church were mortal enemies. Although the 2 sects had not engaged in battle again for 10,000 years, the cleansing incense ancient sect still viewed the sacred heaven church as a great enemy. Chao Xiong getting so close to Dong Shenglong caused the other elders to feel resentment. Although this was just a misunderstanding, simply letting it go like this might make it difficult to gain the trust of the disciples. The tragic deaths of 3 hallmasters, 1 protector, and 1 sect genius are a heavy loss for our entire cleansing incense ancient sect. At this moment, Chao Xiong's heart was bleeding, but he was powerless. In this matter, he lost everything, and his actions backfired. After this incident, he also knew that the 4 elders had defected. What more does junior brother Chao want? Gu Qiye said with dissatisfaction. In reality, the other elders, and even the protectors, suspected that this whole incident was orchestrated by Chao Xiong. However, lacking evidence, they couldn't directly accuse Chao Xiong, and could only dismiss it as a misunderstanding. The killing of fellow disciples is a misfortune for the sect. If Qiye doesn't face any punishment, the disciples might become uneasy, and the world might think we are handling things perfunctorily, treating human lives as insignificant. Since it was a misunderstanding, Qiye won't face heavy punishment. However, a light punishment is necessary. Otherwise, it will be hard to convince the masses. Chao Xiong said in a deep voice. Chao Xiong's words made the 5 elders exchange glances. Although they were suspicious of Chao Xiong, they acknowledged that Chao Xiong's words made sense. They had also considered this. After all, the killing of 3 hallmasters, 1 protector, and He Yingjian, dismissing it as a misunderstanding was a bit forced. Gu Qiye and the others had considered giving Qiye a painless punishment as a satisfactory explanation to the disciples. Seeing the other elders remain silent, Chao Xiong struck while the iron was hot, saying, "Since it was a misunderstanding, and not deserving of heavy punishment, let Qiye be confined to the ghost loft for 6 months to reflect on his reckless actions and poor judgment." The ghost loft. Upon hearing Chao Xiong's words, Elder Sun frowned and asked. Chao Xiong said, "Although the ghost loft is gloomy, it is not perilous. The senior brother has personally experienced it and can attest to this. If we confine Qiye to reflect in another location, the disciples might laugh at us for being too lenient with him. Personally, I think the ghost loft is the most suitable." Speaking of this, Chao Xiong looked at Qiye and said, "Moreover, since Qiye has the founding ancestors' protection, the ghost loft is the most suitable place for him. The ghost loft is the place where the founding ancestors suppressed evil spirits and demons. We can just borrow the founding ancestors' divine might to suppress the ghost loft once more. This is not appropriate." Among the elders, Elder Sun was the most supportive of Qiye. He frowned and said. Before Gu Qiye could decide, Qiye looked at Chao Xiong, smiled and said calmly, "Since I have the founding ancestors' protection, what do I have to fear? Ghost loft it is. This disciple is willing to accept the punishment." Gu Qiye looked at Qiye for a long time, and finally nodded, saying, "Very well. Since you are willing, then go to the ghost loft. We will confine you to the ghost loft for 6 months to reflect. Protector Mo will be in charge of supervision." Gu Qiye's arrangement was simply excellent. It was more about having Protector Mo protect Qiye than supervise him. After the conclusion was reached, Gu Qiye said in a deep voice, "Qiye's reckless actions are indeed deserving of punishment. As for Hallmaster Zhou, who instigated the entire incident, he also needs to be severely punished. If not for Hallmaster Zhou's ignorance and foolishness, Protector Hu and the others wouldn't have died tragically. Therefore, Hallmaster Zhou is stripped of his Hallmaster position, and shall not hold any other position in the sect." Hearing this decision, Chao Xiong's heart bled. He had lost 2 disciples, and 3 hallmasters loyal to him were tragically killed. Now, the number of loyal subordinates willing to work for him was dwindling. Now, stripping Hallmaster Zhou of his position was a heavy loss for him. However, at this moment, he could only endure. Small reluctance disrupts a great plan. Hallmaster Zhou was indeed ignorant and foolish. I agree with senior brother's decision. Chao Xiong gritted his teeth in his heart, agreeing with Gu Qiye's decision. Since even Chao Xiong agreed to the decision, the other elders had no objections. The decision was unanimously passed. The elder's decision was quickly announced. Soon, every disciple of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect heard the news. After hearing such news, many disciples in the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect were stunned. This matter was truly too unbelievable. Back when Qiye was inducted into the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect, how many disciples mocked him, how many disciples looked down on him. Now Qiye had actually killed 3 hallmasters, 1 protector, and even He Ingjian, whom the disciples considered the number 1 genius of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect, died at Qiye's hands. This was simply unbelievable. What was more terrifying was that Qiye committed such a grave mistake, yet only received a light punishment. This moved every disciple and hallmaster. At this moment, many disciples, especially those at the hallmaster level, sensed a different atmosphere. As for the elite disciples of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect, they were warned by their masters or protectors not to discuss this matter easily. The matter of Qiye receiving the Tao in a dream from the founding ancestor was subjected to a gag order by the elders. Apart from the elders and protectors, no one else had the right to inquire about or know this matter. The elders and protectors of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect took this matter extremely seriously. Qiye receiving the Tao in a dream from the founding ancestor meant that the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect had hope for revitalization. It was possible to recover the lost emperor techniques of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect through Qiye. In fact, the 5 elders had privately discussed this matter. This time, the discussion was to reach a conclusion after punishing Qiye, and it excluded Chao Xiong. This was not an official meeting, but a private discussion. The 5 elders were all secretly present. We should let Qiye cultivate the heavenly dwelling art. During the discussion, Elder Sun made this suggestion. Elder Qian also nodded in agreement, saying, "This is possible. The founding ancestor is protecting Qiye, appearing in a dream to pass on the Tao. If we let him cultivate the heavenly dwelling art, perhaps we can recover the heavenly mandate secret art." Immortal Emperor Minren, bearing the heavenly mandate, created a unique heavenly mandate secret art. The heavenly mandate secret art was the highest achievement of an immortal emperor's lifetime. Its power was far above other emperor techniques. The heavenly mandate secret art could be said to carry the divine might of the heavenly mandate. Immortal Emperor Minren had also left the heavenly mandate secret art he created in the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect. However, tragically, this invincible heaven-defying heavenly mandate secret art was later lost by the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect. Now that Qiye could receive the Tao in a dream from the founding ancestor, Elder Qian, and the others hoped to recover the heavenly mandate secret art through Qiye. If they recovered the heavenly mandate secret art, it would undoubtedly be a lifesaver for the declining Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect. I feel that Qiye is currently the treasures of our Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect. We can let him learn anything related to emperor techniques in the sect. Since he can receive the Tao in a dream from the founding ancestor, our Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect can recover all the lost emperor techniques. Elder Wu also said, "It is indeed possible to let Qiye cultivate the heavenly dwelling art. Perhaps we truly can recover the heavenly mandate secret art." Grand Elder Gu Tiesho nodded and mused. However, we shouldn't be too hasty. As the saying goes, greed is often the cause of ruin. If we force Qiye to cultivate the heavenly dwelling art now, he might not be able to comprehend it. If he can't comprehend it, he won't be able to summon the founding ancestor. Therefore, we should first let Qiye cultivate the Violet Sun Ten Sun's art. Of course, once he stabilizes, we can have him practice the heavenly dwelling art as well. In fact, Grand Elder Gu Tiesho had no idea that Qiye hadn't even started cultivating the Violet Sun Ten Sun's art. He was already cultivating the Kuanpeng 6 transformations and the Moon Passage Sun Will art, and had no need to cultivate the Violet Sun Ten. Sun's art again. Senior brother is very right. Qiye is the jewel of our cleansing incense ancient sect. We must slowly excavate him. If we are too impatient, what if we cause him to suffer? Cultivation deviation. Wouldn't that ruin the future of our cleansing incense ancient sect? Elder Sun also felt this was reasonable and said. After the private discussion among the 5 elders, they finally reached a conclusion. They planned to allow Qiye to freely cultivate any cultivation method and related emperor techniques of the cleansing incense ancient sect. On a main peak of the cleansing incense ancient sect, Chao Xiong secretly met with Dong Shenglong. In the Great Hall, only the 2 of them were present. Today, Chao Xiong no longer maintained the composure of the previous meeting. Brother Dong, the plan is ready. This time, there must be absolutely no mistakes. At this moment, Chao Xiong was impatient and said coldly. His previous plan resulted in tragic losses. 2 disciples were killed, and 3 loyal hallmasters died tragically. He wished he could slice Qiye into 10,000 pieces. Brother Chao, rest assured on this point. From now on, you and I are on the same boat. This time, there will absolutely be no mistakes. In less than 3 days, Marquis Fierce Battle will arrive. I have already requested instructions from His Majesty. When the time comes, the situation will be greatly advantageous to Brother Chao. Dong Shenglong appeared confident of success and said with a smile. Hearing this, Chao Xiong's heart couldn't help but tremble. Marquis Fierce Battle was a great general of the protected Saint Upper Kingdom, personally conferred the title of Marquis by the human emperor of the protected Saint Upper Kingdom. Brother Chao, if His Majesty grants a decree, this will be a good opportunity for you to ascend to the position of sect master of the cleansing incense ancient sect. You must seize this opportunity. Dong Shenglong said with a beaming smile. Chao Xiong couldn't help but fall silent. Becoming the sect master of the cleansing incense ancient sect had always been his ambition. However, he had never wished to ascend to the position of sect master in this manner. But today, he had no other choice. His hope for He Yingjian was tragically killed by Qiye. This was a heavy blow to him, cutting off his hope for He Yingjian to become the sect master. Brother Dong, can you guarantee that after the matter is resolved, Marquis Fierce Battle will withdraw his troops? And the human emperor will not transgress against our cleansing incense ancient sect again? Chao Xiong said in a deep voice. Dong Shenglong smiled and said. Brother Chao, you can rest assured on this point. Brother Chao, think about it. With the current strength of the Sacred Heaven Church and the protected Saint Upper Kingdom, destroying your cleansing incense ancient sect would be an easy task, wouldn't it? Yet, His Majesty is benevolent and has never taken action. What does this indicate? What His Majesty desires is simply the heavenly mandate secret art. As long as Brother Chao can secure the heavenly mandate secret art, the rest is not a problem. Brother Dong, don't worry. I will take care of the heavenly mandate secret art. Chao Xiong said in a deep voice. He didn't want to betray the cleansing incense ancient sect's heavenly mandate secret art. This made Chao Xiong think of many things. If he could control the situation, and if the founding ancestor's portrait was in his hands, even if Marquis Fierce Battle didn't withdraw his troops, he wouldn't be afraid. As for Qiye, humph. A terrifying killing intent flashed in Chao Xiong's eyes. Dong Shenglong naturally didn't know Chao Xiong's thoughts, nor did he know about the founding ancestor's portrait in the cleansing incense ancient sect. However, he had the backing of the Sacred Heaven Church and the support of the protected Saint Upper Kingdom. He was fearless. Even if Chao Xiong could stir up trouble, it wouldn't be enough to achieve anything against a colossal entity like the Sacred Heaven Church. Meanwhile, Nan Huiran was shocked upon hearing the news. Senior brother, you really have to go to the ghost loft to reflect for 6 months. Nan Huiran's expression changed, and he said loudly to Qiye. Is it fake? Qiye chuckled and said. The elders have decided. What can I do? Seeing Qiye's nonchalant appearance, Nan Huaran couldn't help but say. Senior brother, do you know what kind of place the ghost loft is? Didn't you say it was the former loot pavilion? Qiye still said calmly and at ease. Nan Huaran couldn't help but jump up, saying. That was a very long time ago. It was indeed called the loot pavilion before, but tens of thousands of years ago, that place was renamed. Everyone calls it the ghost loft. Cowards will be scared out of their wits. Now, let alone the ghost loft, even that main peak is a place no one dares to go. I heard there are ghosts there. Nan Huaran said mysteriously to Qiye. Since it's called the ghost loft, having ghosts is normal. If there were no ghosts, why would it be called the ghost loft? Qiye said with a leisurely smile. Seeing Qiye's heavy taste, Nan Huaran was instantly speechless. Others fled from such an ominous thing as a ghost, yet the senior brother said he liked it. Nan Huaran truly cared about Qiye. He wanted to persuade Qiye further, but his master, Protector Mo, gently shook his head. He could only remain silent. Protector Mo didn't persuade Qiye. He could tell that Qiye had a plan. He believed that Qiye's actions didn't require their worry. Let's go. Let's go and see the ghost loft. Finally, Qiye smiled and said to Nan Huaran and the others. Nan Huaran had no choice but to accept his fate and follow Qiye to see the ghost loft. However, he still muttered. Senior brother, if you encounter ghosts, don't blame me for not reminding you. There are truly ghosts there. Qiye only smiled at Nan Huaran's persistent chatter. In fact, the news of Qiye going to the ghost loft to reflect was heard by all the disciples of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Whenever the ghost loft was mentioned, the disciples of the cleansing incense ancient sect couldn't help but shiver. To stay in the ghost loft for 6 months. I wouldn't do it even for 1 day. I'd rather be punished in the ice cave than stay in the ghost loft. A disciple said with a pale face. Don't talk about the ice cave. I'd even be willing to go to the Een Dry Valley. I won't go to the ghost loft. Another disciple shook his head and said. Speaking of the ghost loft, even our bold senior uncle is afraid. A disciple said. Bold senior uncle is arguably the boldest person in our cleansing incense ancient sect. 5 years ago, he defied the superstition, and made a bet with us to stay in the ghost loft for 1 night. The next morning, before dawn, he was so scared that he peed his pants and ran out. Brat, exposing my weakness. Do you want a beating? The middle-aged man beside him glared and shouted. This middle-aged man was extremely burly, obviously a rough fellow. Even though the disciple was glared at, another disciple couldn't help but ask curiously. Senior uncle, what happened back then? What exactly occurred that night? The senior uncle, questioned by the disciples, couldn't help but pause. He finally shook his head and said. The ghost loft has ghosts. The ghosts are terrifying. Perhaps it's not just one ghost, but many, many ghosts. Qiye is going to the ghost loft to reflect. What do you think, how long can he stay there? A disciple couldn't help but ask curiously. I bet he can't even stay for 1 night. A disciple bet. Another disciple sneered and said. 1 night? Humph. I think by nightfall, he'll be so scared he'll pee his pants. The ghost loft is not an empty name. There are definitely demons there. For a time, many disciples of the cleansing incense ancient sect were chattering, all claiming the ghost loft had ghosts. However, no one could specifically describe what kind of ghosts the ghost loft had. In fact, even the protector's expressions would change at the mention of the ghost loft, because the Grand Elder had once gone to the ghost loft. He had once tried to use his Emperor technique to suppress the ominous presence of the ghost loft. Unexpectedly, the next day, the Grand Elder retreated from the ghost loft in a wretched state. He couldn't suppress the ominous presence within the ghost loft. Since then, no protector or disciple dared to overestimate themselves and try to suppress the ghost loft. If even the Grand Elder failed, no one else stood a chance. The ghost loft was located on a main peak of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Originally, the heaven and earth essence Qiye on this main peak was decent. However, since the rumors of the ghost loft's haunting spread, not only did no one want to go to the ghost loft, but no disciple of the cleansing incense ancient sect was willing to cultivate on this main peak. Now, the area presented a scene of total decline. Even the surrounding area of the main peak for over 10 miles was in decay. The flowers and trees looked withered as if affected by the ominous presence of the place. It was said that tens of thousands of years ago, the disciples of this main peak formed their own faction. This main peak had flourished for several generations. However, later, a haunting occurred, and the place began to decline and decay until no disciple was willing to set foot there again. When Qiye stood on the main peak, looking out at the mountains and rivers, he couldn't help but fall silent. The scene of decline here was not only because no disciples cultivated here. Standing on this main peak, one could faintly sense a feeling of unease. It was as if evil energy was about to surge from beneath the peak. For tens of thousands of years, the successive disciples of the cleansing incense ancient sect believed that this place was ominous. It seemed there was reason behind it. Standing on the main peak with him, Nanhuaran felt a chill down his spine, as if he was being watched by ghosts, making him inexplicably get goosebumps. If Qiye hadn't been accompanying him, he wouldn't be willing to stay in this ghostly place. Recovering his senses, he looked at the large building standing on the main peak, presenting a scene of decay. The large building, known as the ghost loft, was also falling into ruin. Qiye looked at the ghost loft before him and couldn't help but sigh softly. The ghost loft, though called the ghost loft, was actually built with exquisite craftsmanship and subtle charm. It was built on a main peak, seemingly natural, making one feel that it was integrated with the peak itself. From the ghost loft's decoration, one could tell that the cleansing incense ancient sect had once greatly valued this ghost loft. Unfortunately, after an unforeseen incident, the cleansing incense ancient sect abandoned it. The ghost loft's footprint was not wide, but it was extremely exquisite, capable of being called cleverly beautiful. However, the ghost loft was now covered in dust, draped with cobwebs, and overgrown with weeds. Even squirrels and forest birds had made their homes there. Walking into the ghost loft, treading on the floor made of 10,000-year-old jade pine, a creaking sound echoed. In the gloomy air, a timid person would be scared out of their wits. Especially after entering the ghost loft, a flurry of flapping sounds erupted as bats scattered, further adding to the ghostly atmosphere of the ghost loft. This place was once a vital area of the cleansing incense ancient sect, but unfortunately, it is now completely abandoned. Protector Mo couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Not only Protector Mo sighed with emotion, but even Qiye couldn't help but sigh softly in his heart. Remembering the distant past of cultivation, before Immortal Emperor Minren bore the heavenly mandate, before he dominated the 9 heavens and 10 lands, Qiye, as the Dark Crow, had once taught the Lute Dao to the young Minren in this very pavilion. Speaking of this, back then, as the Dark Crow, he had once mocked the young Minren's lute skills as truly terrible. If he were to play the lute for a living, he would probably starve to death. Recalling the past, Immortal Emperor Minren would merely laugh heartily at such mockery. Without Qiye instructing them, Protector Mo and Nanhuaran quickly tidied up the inside and outside of the ghost loft. After they finished sweeping and tidying, the ghost loft became much brighter. The gloomy atmosphere was swept away considerably. Even so, the ghost loft still retained a touch of gloom. Protector Mo and Nan Huiran arranged all the necessary items for Li Qiye, and then reported to him. Glancing at Protector Mo and Nan Huiran's arrangements, Li Qiye nodded and finally said, "Very good. However, I will sleep in the main hall. There's no need to make a separate room for me. Also, Huiran, bring me a lute." "A lute? What for?" Hearing Li Qiye's words, Nan Huiran was surprised. Normally, few cultivators had the elegant hobby of playing the lute and gazing at the moon. Li Qiye smiled and said, "This place was once the lute pavilion. The scenery here is beautiful. At night, if one can gaze at the moon and play a tune, what an exhilarating thing that would be." "Ah!" Nan Huiran couldn't help but whisper. "Senior brother, this is the ghost loft. There will be strange happenings at night. You still want to play the lute? Stinky brat, don't spoil my mood. Go quickly." Li Qiye, a 13 or 14-year-old boy, calling Nan Huiran a stinky brat, seemed somewhat like a pretentious old man, but Nan Huiran just chuckled and ran off. While Nan Huiran and his master were arranging things, Li Xuangan, who had accompanied them, also seemed to be paying special attention to the ghost loft. She carefully and meticulously observed the ghost loft, seemingly unwilling to miss any detail. At this moment, Li Xuangan was observing the 4 large pillars in the main hall, completely lost in thought. The 4 large pillars were made of 10,000-year-old jade pine. Having undergone countless years of refinement, they were completely free of rot. On top of each pillar were dense and intricate carvings. Please continue. The translation for me. Thank you for listening to the story on KTN Storyverse. Please like, share, and subscribe to enjoy more amazing stories.